What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Salad Bowl Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Thompson, and today I have a really good episode for you. I get to sit down with a friend of mine, Zach Gonzalez, and we get to talk about a lot of different things that some people may consider taboo, but in this friendship, I think it's just normal for us at this point. I'm really excited to share this next episode with you on the Salad Bowl Podcast, so let's hop right in.
Now, give me my theme music.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl. You are now tuned in to the...
Listen up, don't care if you about to pass out or you just getting up. You really did your thing with this one, Kevin, gotta give it up. Messages you bring and be motivation to live it up. We out here really normalizing authenticity. Can't be talking all the time cause that mean you ain't listening. I think you look better when you smile, I see you glistening. Communication helping me to see what you envisioning. Yeah, back to the mission then. Whether you black, white, brown, yellow, or green, more can be accomplished as a team. Together, the problem is never as hard as it may seem. Lot of captivating convos like Martin telling his dream. We choosing curiosity over certainty. You should certainly subscribe to this one here with some urgency. This a win. Even Cali know you are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl.
The Salad Bowl Podcast.
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl.
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
Yeah, you are now tuned in to the...
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl.
You are now tuned into the Salad Bowl Podcast with Kevin Thompson.
Welcome back to the Salad Bowl Podcast. Today, I get to sit down with a really good friend of mine. I would love to put a lot of words on it, but I feel like he'll be able to speak for himself. I just want to give a very warm welcome to Zach Gonzalez for coming to sit here with me on the Salad Bowl Podcast today.
Thank you.
Brother, we've known each other for a long damn time, man.
Yes.
A long time. Met probably around that 2013 time frame out in Japan. And before we even get started, man, I just want to say it really warms my heart. And this is weird because I guess guys don't really talk like this, but it warms my heart, man. And I got much love for you for taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedule. I know you're on work right now. You're here working in New Orleans, but you took a little bit of time out of your schedule just to come and sit down and talk with me, man. It means a lot to me, brother.
Yeah.
Before or as we get into this thing, every episode, we start off every episode as I try to highlight my guests. We start with a segment called The Harvest. Okay. Now, The Harvest simply is just us going over what you and I have talked about plenty of different times in our friendship, socialization. Like, where do you come from? What are your roots? Who makes Zach Gonzalez or who made Zach Gonzalez, and what does he stand for? And I think that will give us a basis for the entire conversation we have over the next little time that we spend together. Yeah. So if we're going to start The Harvest, man, tell me who Zach Gonzalez is and where does he come from?
Well, so I think I've been a lot of things in my life, but I was born in the central New York area, Syracuse, New York area. My parents, my mother's from Puerto Rico. Okay. My father was born in Puerto Rico, but then he grew up in Mount Loretta Orphanage in New York City. Okay. So I don't even think I think it's a national park now. Okay. And so my roots are primarily Puerto Rican through New York City up through central New York. Mm-hmm. Do
they call the New York Rican?
Yeah,
is that a thing?
Yeah, so it's funny because there's definitely, I don't know if it's beef, right? But there's definitely like a thing where all my siblings were born in Puerto Rico, island proper. They all have like Puerto Rican names: Angel Luis Gonzalez, Jacqueline, Ana Huida. Like they all have very Puerto Rican names, and I'm Zachary Alberto. Right? So, and I was born in New York, so growing up, they'd call me like gringo, which means white boy. Like just very, very
Americanized, like a.
Oh yeah. They let me know that I was not from the island proper, which was fine. Which
is interesting because I gotta say, I don't want to overgeneralize here, but I would like to think 95% of the Puerto Ricans that I've ever met were extremely proud people.
Yeah. I mean, I've got pictures where there's Puerto Rican flags everywhere, and like my mother in particular. Maybe not my father because I think he grew up in New York City and on the island back and forth. But my mother really grew up in Puerto Rico, right? She didn't come to the States till she was 45.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she had me at 46, 47. Wow, man. So she lived the majority, she lived a decade longer than I am right now in Puerto Rico. And so yeah, the orgullo, right, which is pride, the pride that comes from being Puerto Rican, she definitely instilled that in me. There was Puerto Rican flags everywhere. It was, a big deal for us to learn Spanish, a big deal for us to eat traditional foods. Yeah, she didn't.
So this whole Puerto Rican pride situation didn't just start with the Super Bowl recently.
No. Shout out Bad Bunny. No. I think the Super Bowl just kind of captured what a lot of places already knew, right? So if you look at the Puerto Rican Day Parade, you look at places in Miami, the Caribbean, I think as a whole is a proud place, but then the Super Bowl just showcased one island in the Caribbean, which was Puerto Rico.
Nice.
But I think a lot of places that are maybe more metropolitan America, like bigger cities, kind of already knew that the Puerto Rican pride was a thing.
Okay.
And I think the Super Bowl just showed the rest of the world.
Nice. Is there a difference between the pride in Puerto Rico that's actually on the island and the experience that you got in New York, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I think obviously on the island, like they're humans, right? So like there's a hierarchy structure that starts to develop. Like I'm from the island proper, right? And so obviously the pride with me growing up was in the household.
Okay.
Right. It wasn't everywhere like it is in Puerto Rico because that's the dominant population over there. When you're in New York, there's a lot of different populations, right? There's all types of different people.
Yes.
And so it's not just one identity that's dominating the conversation like it is in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm laughing a little bit to myself because the thought that just came through my head is that I'm guessing there is a play out of Latin cultures.
Sure.
And like you talked about a hierarchy.
Yeah.
I know that I would like to think that Puerto Ricans like to put themselves at the top of that hierarchy at times. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think it comes from like Puerto Rican mothers. Like my mother, right, wrong, or indifferent, told me I was God's gift to earth. And I think there's a lot of benefits to that. I think there's a lot of drawbacks to that.
Okay.
But I think from a cultural standpoint, Puerto Ricans definitely think that they are the best at everything. Obviously, there's an immature way to look at that, and there's a mature way to look at that.
Yeah.
And I think the mature way is like, you can be proud of where you're from, and we love the island, and we love the culture, and whatever. And then I think the immature way is like, hey, you know what it is, dog. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like later on in life, I've been able to see pride a lot differently, right? Sure. Because pride for something doesn't mean that it's taking away from anything else. I think when we make pride like a competition, right? Of like, I was telling a good friend the other day, he's a white guy. I was like, just because I'm pro-black doesn't mean I'm anti-white. I'm proud to be a black guy. Yeah. And I feel like that's the feeling, that authentic pride is the feeling that I get from most Puerto Ricans as well. Yeah. It's like, I'm not trying to take away from the Dominicans. I'm not trying to take away from anybody else. We just know that, we happy to be us.
And I don't even know, I can't speak for everybody, right? But for myself, like my mind doesn't even go to like thinking about other demographics really. Like I'm not saying it in a malicious way. I'm saying it in a way that I know what I bring to the table. I know what the culture brings to the table. I know what, there's like this thing where like nobody can understand Puerto Rican Spanish, right? My wife showed me a meme the other day where it's like somebody's interviewing somebody else and like ask them how they say bus in Spanish. And in Puerto Rico, we say la guagua, right? Okay. And that's like a key tell that's like the Puerto Rican dialect, right? Got it. But I think all those things is what we're proud of, right? Is specifically for me, that's what I'm proud of because it reminds me of my mother mainly. Like, it reminds me of where I come from, right? And so I'm very much tied into my identity because my identity is a reflection of the people that nurtured and loved me when I was a kid. And so why wouldn't I be proud of that? Why wouldn't I want to embrace that and then give that to my children?
Man, great point.
Yeah.
Great point. Now you talk about like growing up in New York. How were like your school days, man? Like, were they good student, bad student? Like
I was a terrible child. I was a horrible child. I was a horrible student. My parents had me older in life. So my father was born in 1942.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my mother was born in 1940.
Wow.
I was born in 93. So people can do the math there. But they had me later in life, so they were tired. My father has something like fucking 11 kids.
Dang, right? Yeah.
And my mother has 6 kids.
Okay.
And I'm the youngest of that family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So by the time I came around, they're just beat, right? And so I was really raised by my siblings in a lot of ways. I got a lot of love from my sister Jackie, my brother Angel, my brother Eddie. my older brother, Anna. There's other siblings from my father's first relationship. I got a brother, Butchie, who actually lives in Mobile, Alabama.
Nice.
He told me an interesting thing about Mardi Gras. I don't know if this is true. He told me Mardi Gras originated in Mobile.
In Mobile.
Okay,
yeah,
he's
it
right.
did.
Okay.
He's right.
Shout out Butchie. Yeah, he told me that, and I was like, that's cool, man. I just hearted it. Like, I didn't fact check it.
Yeah, for sure. He's right.
But I was just a terrible kid in terms of traditional behavior because I was kind of allowed to do whatever I wanted.
Okay.
And then that kind of bled into school. And I, just like a lot of little boys, I hated school. I thought it was stupid. And yeah, so my school days were fine up until I was about 13. 13, my parents separated, just the nature of life.
Okay.
And then things got real weird because then I really didn't have any structure. So parents separate. We start bouncing around New York State. I went to 4 or 5 different high schools from 13 to 18. I lived with my brother, my mother. I couch surfed. I whatever. Just going through a rough period that I'm very grateful for now. And so it's funny because the No Child Left Behind Act is actually what allowed me to graduate. So when I got to the final high school that I graduated out of, I didn't have enough days to like be a 12th grader, but they knew that I was going to try to join the Marine Corps. So because of the No Child Left Behind Act that Obama implemented, it just mattered if I was able to pass the tests.
Oh, wow.
They just want to know if I could pass the tests. So, what I had to do was I had to stay late after school. I had to do a bunch of modules and then I had to pass all the state exams. And I think I ended up finishing it like a week before I was supposed to walk the stage.
Wow.
And so they gave me my diploma and then I was able to leave for boot camp.
Man, one, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
And then 2, one thing that I think we've discussed in the past, and I was telling you that I was talking to my brother-in-law about, is like the struggles that it seems like young men have in schools. And what's crazy to me is that you're a very intelligent person, probably one of the smartest people that I know.
Thank you.
And you would think that somebody who's as intelligent as you would have been like the prime student, right?
Sure.
The perfect student, listened, passed all the tests. But like one thing I'm finding out is that some of the smartest people that I know in this life struggled through school. And it didn't just start now. Like I feel like if you look at history, I want to say like Benjamin Franklin had a hard time in school. Who's the guy? E equals MC squared. Albert Einstein.
Yeah, Einstein
could barely like tie his shoes. So like
Beethoven was like a notable slob.
Exactly.
Super disorganized.
Exactly. So I feel like the school system is not a good. I'm not knocking school, but the school system is not the perfect thing to identify if somebody is actually intelligent.
Well, I think what's important about what we're talking about is like we need to set what is the question I ask is like what is the goal of school? There's a real good argument, I think, that the goal of school is a socialization process. It's not an education process. Like I think I can make an argument that. I think I could also make an argument that it's an indoctrination process, not an education process. Now, those two look similar because indoctrination inevitably has education built into it. But really with indoctrination, we're not creating free thinkers. We're chafing away. We're molding what kind of products we want. And there's probably, 100 years, maybe more of the refinement of the school that models the factory and all that stuff with the bells dinging and just kind of like the robot type deal. So to answer your question, I had a lot of good mentors in school that I can think of. I could see their faces. I can remember them trying to help me out. But the system is not designed for 2 things. The system in my mind is not designed for like high energy little boys. I don't think the system does well for that. And the system's not designed for untraditional, maybe dysfunctional families or broken families, right? I don't really like to use the word broken because it's like every fucking family's broken.
Facts.
If you put the microscope on any family, you'll find
you're going to find a fracture somewhere.
You're going to find some fracture. But the system's not really designed for dysfunctional families. And what I mean by that is like, now that I have children, one of the first place my mind goes is like, well, I want to make sure I'm in the PTO meetings. I want to make sure I play the political game. I want to make sure that, right, to give my children the opportunity.
Yes.
My parents, like my father was pretty much fucking illiterate, right? My mother had me super old. So they weren't playing that game.
Right.
And then the moment a child, and I'm even more blessed, we're more blessed because I graduated in 2011. And so I feel like teachers back then even had more of an investment where now I think teachers are probably like, I'm not touching that, right? Like, this is crazy. But even back then, whenever you'd see a student struggling, there'd be a real hesitation to like really help them. There'd be a hesitation because you don't know what you're getting involved in.
Of course.
You don't know how bad it is. You don't know what that student's going through. And so I just don't think the system is designed for it. And I don't know if it's meant to be, right? There's,
Yeah.
Again, there's a real argument that like, that's the parent's problem.
Yeah.
Right? That's the parent's problem. We can only do what we can. But to answer your question, I think specifically, those two things was why I just wasn't good for that school. The pipeline is, number one, I was super high energy, super focused on other things that a lot of young boys are focused on.
Of course.
And then I was just dealing with a lot of adult problems that kids shouldn't deal with, right? A family that was breaking apart, people in the second half of their life going through identity crisis, you know, my mother leaving my father getting into the later half of his life, which is hard. And if your parents aren't stable, then you know, you're gonna have a hard time being stable.
Yeah, you know, I noticed that even in our household, KJ, our son, he's been a very good student up until this point, and starting off this recent year in kindergarten, it seemed to be like a issue with him fitting into his new school, and like some behavior issues like we never saw that seemed very uncharacteristic of our son. And I guess I'll go ahead here and throw this out. Like every parent is biased to their own child. Like
yes, they should.
Some people would like to ignore some of the issues, but like I would say that we have a pulse on where our children are at intellectually and behavior wise. And we saw all these things happening at the beginning of the year, and Mariah, my wife, she set up a teacher meeting, right? A parent teacher meeting. And I want to say, I'm not 100% on this, but when we showed up to the school and the teacher got a pulse on how we were with our child, it changed the narrative
100%.
For my son. You know, like it seemed like we start leaning away from labeling him like a problem child to seeing like, oh, his parents are invested, which actually changed his trajectory within the class now. Like I just did a chaperoned his field trip, and the teacher loves him. I don't want to say that, you know, she flipped or anything like that. She's a great teacher. Miss Lewis is awesome. But like, I do see what you're saying. Like if my family is not set up to be there for me, and not even saying in a nefarious way, how that could change the narrative for the child.
Well, and I don't think it's nefarious. I think people, they do the best they can, and they it's everyone's first time living life. And so when I reflect on my parents, I'm great. If God said, hey dude, well, you could pick them, I'm gonna let you go up there and I'm gonna pick them. I'll pick the same two motherfuckers, bro.
Man.
I'll pick the same two. I got a lot of love for them. Now, obviously I got a lot of criticism of them. Like who the fuck doesn't? But
everyone does.
Everyone does. But ultimately, where I am now, you know, talking about the harvest and my roots, I'm a product of those two. I mean, my father he was born in 1942, right? So you're talking about a guy who was alive in 1964. 1963, JFK gets shot, right? 1965, Martin Luther King marches, maybe 66.
Yes.
Right? He grows up in New York City as a fairer-skinned Puerto Rican guy. And so what has this guy lived through, right? He was drafted for Vietnam. And so the product that I got at 50, whatever, when he had me, was a dude who life had already beat down so much, right? And so I'm just glad that we were able to have some conversations, and that he taught me a lot of things from the standpoint of like, okay, I'm not going to do that, right? Especially in the ways like treated my mom and things like that. But he also taught me a lot of things just, you know, about survival and fixing cars. And I was telling you, we were getting lunch earlier, and my dad used to tell me, the only friend you have is the dollar in your pocket. And I think taking that to the extreme is bad, but I also think there's a lot of wisdom in that statement. Where it's like, hey, be real careful about who you allow in your circle. And so I you know, specifically my parents, and I think if anyone is, you know, struggling with the relationship with their parents, it's like, you know, I give them a lot of grace and a lot of leeway because, you know, I'm a product and I'm able to be better, whatever that means, 100%. Because of the things that they put themselves through and what they were willing to sacrifice and all that.
100%. Now, if you're talking about your high school days, so you know, thank goodness for No Kid Left Behind, and you graduated high school, which led you where?
So after high school, so my junior year, my brother, no, I guess my freshman year, my brother joined the Army, and I was really close to my brother. He's a big hero of mine. He's, I think, your same age or maybe a little bit older.
Okay.
But he ends up joining the Army, and he goes away and he does all this stuff. And I'm talking to him, and he's like, "Hey man, you know, you should join the military." Now, I didn't want to join the military. Like never ever have I been one of these individuals who's like, I just ready to do it, man.
Right.
Like, you know, like I just didn't grow up in that culture. My parents weren't patriotic. My parents, we just never had those discussions. Right. And that's, I don't think that's a bad thing. Right.
Right.
So my mother, when I turned 18 in January, comes and has a conversation with me, and she says, hey Zach, what are you going to do during the summer? Because Section 8 will only pay for 2 bedrooms if you go to college.
Oh, wow.
After you turn 18, we lose the Section 8 voucher, and they're going to make me downgrade to a 1 bedroom. And in a loving way, she was like, but you can get a job, if you don't want to go to school, and we can make it work and all that stuff. So when I tell people why I joined the Marine Corps and we get into these conversations, I really joined the Marine Corps out of a sense of love for my mother, right? Out of sense of love is I didn't want to burden her, right? Now, I wanted to go to the Army at first because my big brother was in the Army. But the Marine recruiter was working through Chow because he hates his life and he wants to go home. Right. So he was working through Chow. And Buddy was like, I went in there and he hit me with the psychological bullshit, and I was a young man. And he was like, well, why do you want to join us? And I'm like, whatever. And he actually played basketball at the Y. And so I'd seen him a couple times, and, he being proficient and being a Marine sergeant, his name's Nicholas Bibby. I think he retired, but
I know Nick Bibby, man.
Bibby.
Hey, man, me and him served together, actually.
Bibby,
we were in 29 Palms together.
Lebanese dude or some shit.
Man. Went to classes. Yeah.
Smooth,
real cool cat.
Bro, cool as fuck. And so he was like, hey, homie, if I beat you one-on-one, let's talk.
And Bibby unassumingly can hoop. Like, bro,
Body beat. Like, I was like skinny, 18 years old. Motherfucker put up it was like 7-1.
Yeah.
So we end up sitting down, and to be completely honest with you, I was like, man, I'm not trying to go do none of that like pow shit. I'm not trying to do none of that.
Right.
I'm trying to get out of the situation and come back and take care of my mother. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. And he was like, oh, bro, I got you. There's somebody leaving in like a week who's going to be admin. And I was like, okay, yeah. What is that? And he's like, oh, you do like lawyer shit. Whatever. Whatever. And so I went and I did that. And then, that's what led me to the Marine Corps. And then I did... When did I leave? I left in August 2011, August 1st, 2011. And then I got to Camp Lejeune, Camp Johnson. I did my little PA school stuff. And then I went to Okinawa, Japan, right? And in Okinawa, Japan is my first duty station.
Yeah, man. And that's where you and I met.
Yeah.
Question for you, man.
Yeah.
Before we even make it to Okinawa, coming from the upbringing that you had, right, where it seemed like you had to learn some things as a young man, get to where you made it. Yeah. Was the Marine Corps really a culture shock for you, or like was it hard, like boot camp? That's what a lot of people talk about is initially, right?
Sure.
Oh, Marine Corps boot camp, 13 weeks, the hardest training you'll ever go through. You got people yelling, spitting in your face. This is an environment that's just so rough. Was it as much of a culture shock for you as it was for other people?
I'm not going to hold you. Physically, yes. I think physically it was demanding. I mean, I had done like 2-day footballs and stuff like that, but physically it was demanding mainly because I was like scared of heights and shit. I was like, I ain't trying to do none of that shit.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a culture shock in the way that I think a lot of people conceptualize it. The way I look at it, I was just super grateful. I mean, you got to figure out, my mother, we were so poor. My mother would tell me, like, if you imagine you're eating steak, it'll feel like you're eating steak. You'll start to get full.
Wow.
And so, for me, it's like, I was just happy to have a little change in my pocket. For me, I loved the Marine Corps when I first joined because it was the most money I'd ever made. I really felt like I was doing something in my life because of the background. So it wasn't a culture shock in terms of, like, I can't wait to go home. Like, like it wasn't that. It was more of a culture shock of like, wow, like I actually, this is the best life I've ever lived.
Wow.
And I'm able to eat whenever I want to get some food. It was like the most luxury I'd had in my life up until that time.
Dang.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you leave boot camp, and thank you for that answer.
Yeah.
You leave boot camp, you go to school, now you're an admin Marine, and you land on a place called Okinawa, Japan. And you had spent most of all of your life in New York, or so you had only been in New York, and other than boot camp and then North Carolina, where you spent your time in school, you landed in another country. I'm pretty sure that came as a culture shock. Initially, especially with this newfound independence that you had. So Okinawa was good and bad. I was in a relationship at that time, and I had a daughter born there when I was super young, 19 years old, Mia. And it was a culture shock for a couple reasons. So one, I'm a new dad, right? And it's like, what do I even do with this thing? Right. And I still feel that way, right? Like I still feel like, oh my God, like what am I doing here? Yes.
But then number two, it's like you're in a complete different culture that's not American. And then you're given a level of freedom, and then you're given a job, and you're given a responsibility. And so I think when I reflect back on it, the only emotion that comes to mind is like I was super excited.
Okay.
Like I wanted good things for my life. I wanted to do a good job. I wanted to be a good Marine. I was like the perfect junior Marine, right? But I think, you know, one of the things that kind of led me and you to get close back then is I also had that edge to me of like, you know, like, hey man, like I know what's up.
Yes.
You know, like
street smarts. I would say there's a certain level of street smarts
or whatever. Like wisdom maybe. Like I had lived life a little bit more than some of my peers, and so that helped me tremendously in the Marine Corps. Tremendously.
I think that's one of the when you realize that not everybody starts at the same starting point in the race. Like when you're in the Marine Corps, like some people are a little bit more sheltered, some people don't understand the manipulation at certain points of time. I think that's one of the main causes for you to start recognizing some of your own internal talents as well. You're like, oh man, okay, I know that this is a uniformed job or uniformed approach to an organization, but like I am a little different, you know, like, and I think there's some value in the little bit of difference that you bring to the table.
And we can talk about here specifically because I have two memories that come to mind. The first memory is I checked into Camp Courtney, Division G1. And when I first got there was this kid, I mean, Lance Corporal something, but he was terminal Lance getting out. And I didn't know any better. Me and him got into an altercation right away. And I remember this Major Sally Flacco, who I think retired as a lieutenant colonel. You know, me and him had gotten into it and it had gotten physical. And then they pulled us both into the office. And like right away, I was like, look, I know he's a Lance Corporal. I was a PFC. And I was like, you know, and I'm sorry, but I'm just not gonna have him disrespecting me like that. And Major Sally Flacco was like, oh no, I love your response to that. And she's like, and I love the fact that you're apologizing. And so that's just one experience that I had early that started kind of changing my mentality when it comes to this idea of like conflict in the Marine Corps. And maybe not, you know, obviously physical conflict is never good, but just conflict of like having conversations and being able to push open the Overton window with some of these things, right?
Yeah.
And the second story that comes to mind is actually a story that involves you.
I feel like I know exactly what you're about to talk about. But go ahead.
Maybe. I don't even know if you remember this. So I was a newly promoted Lance, maybe, and it's how I ended up in the G7. Right. So I don't know if you remember this. How I ended up G7 is me. I was talking to you, and I was like, "Hey, man. So there's a spot in the G7, and Lieutenant Colonel Tomko." Who, you know, he's a pivotal character in my career. I hope he's doing well. He's got a spot and he was asking in G1, he was asking who could take it. And what you told me, and I don't know if you remember this, is you were like, well, just go talk to the motherfucker. Like, that's what you said. That's what you said, right? You were like, well, just go talk to him. And so I did just that. I found him in the hallway and, you know, use this as you will for anybody listening. Like, I don't recommend this as a Lance Corporal, but I went straight up to Lieutenant Colonel. I was like, I want to work for you. You know, didn't stop by the staff sergeant, didn't stop by the sergeant. I went straight to him and I was like, I want to work for you.
Yes.
Well, the next day he went to the assistant chief of staff and was like, I want Lance Corporal Gonzalez. And it was a sergeant billet and he put me in there. And there's another experience that ties you in. That's like, hey, you know, a little bit of mentorship right there. And also just kind of pushing maybe some of those Overton windows of, you know, voicing the things that you want.
Well, I think sometimes I do remember that situation. And sometimes I think we're in a warfighting organization. Sometimes like we forget that friction is part of this thing. Like literally within the warfighting doctrine of what we read about and prepare for war for, like that can be used in everyday life. And I think sometimes to battle with that friction, especially as like a junior Marine, to go walk up to a higher individual and say like, hey, I want to work for you. I think that shows a quality of warfighting within that Marine specifically, that's what we actually want more of. We don't want the person who's so reserved that they're gonna miss out on the future opportunities that it could be presented. But yeah, I do remember that. And it's funny because
what story were you thinking of?
I don't know if you want the story I was thinking of, because you were talking about conflict. And I might have to cut this out, but you were talking about conflict, and I remember maybe it's the Puerto Rican in you, maybe it's just like I can definitely see your socialization as I look back on our time together, because there was a point in time where you were standing duty one time.
We don't have to cut that out. That's actually a great story.
Let me tell you what I remember from the story.
Yeah.
So
I mean, how long is the statute of limitations? I mean, it was, I don't know. Go ahead. Yeah.
This is how you know. I mean, I know we're on like a show and everything's supposed to be peachy cream, and I'm only supposed to give you the highlights. But like, this actually gives us a layer of realness behind. Like we were those guys, you know. But I remember you were standing duty, and I think you were always a very strong leader, and always has been a strong leader, even as a gunnery sergeant today. Yeah. And one of your A duty, I'll leave his name out of it. Yeah. But like he went up to his room. You told him, hey, you can go take off a lot of different, a lot of time. I'll stand on the duty. Yeah. Go get some rest. Go chill out. Go get some food. Yeah. And then you just simply told him like what time to be back. Yes. And because this guy, I think, was using your kindness for a weakness at the time. Yeah. He was like, he didn't come back at the time that you said.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so I remember Zach Gonzalez going up to that guy's room and pretty much saying like, hey, didn't I tell you to get back downstairs? And the guy kind of blew you off. Like, I'm talking to my girl on the phone, or I'm doing something. I'm eating pizza, whatever it was. And I think the story goes, tell me if I'm wrong. You went back downstairs. You said, hey, you're either going to be back down at this time or I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to.
Yeah. So we had worked together, and I had become a meritorious corporal, and at first, it was my first time. It was my first time standing duty. And I was super excited. I was like, "Oh, my boy's on it with me, whatever." And so I tried to do the good dude thing, and I was like, "Hey, man, like, go do your thing. Just need you back at midnight." I gave him like the whole day off, and I was like, "I just want to get a couple hours. I think from like midnight to 3 a.m. And then I'll do all the things in the morning." So I go up there at like 11:30, just as a reminder, like, "Hey, brother, you got to come down." And he's on the phone with his girl or whatever, and I'm like, "Cool, whatever." 12:05 rolls around and he's not down, and I'm like, I'm kind of tired, man. So I go up there, and at this point he like completely ignores me, and I'm like, okay. And so I go back up, I think at like 12:15, right? Because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, and obviously, you want to do the right thing, right? So I go up there like 12:15, and I'm like upset now. Because he basically, like you said, blew me off, and I was like, "Hey, dog, like if I come back up here, I'm gonna beat your ass. Like if I come back up here, it's not gonna be good for you." Yeah. And so at 12:30, I went back up there, and then he was standing duty by 12:45.
We'll leave the story.
And nothing to report that I know of. Right? No, NSRTR, nothing significant to report that I know of. So,
and as we sit here and laugh about this, right? I think that there's a lot of value in that example that you just brought up, or just that in that story, because I know what you do for work now, and you deal with complaints and stuff like that now. But sometimes sometimes lower level leadership can't handle certain things with just handling things. I'm not encouraging people to go start fights or anything like that, but like there is a way of handling situations with the abilities that you have at the time, or that you have the tools that you have in front of you. Yeah. And I think it still it's gotten the Marine Corps very far up until this point. Yeah. And I think that we should still sometimes always go back to our roots as an organization.
So I think you said a couple key things there. Like one, obviously, like I don't want to endorse fighting for anything, right? And so if anyone looks at this and is like, "Oh, he's endorsing fighting," like, you're being an idiot. Like I can clearly say, like, I'm not endorsing fighting in any type of official capacity. But the second thing I'll say is, like, life is gray, right? And that's the issue. Like, life is gray. And another key word you said there is time and place. We're talking 2012 Okinawa, Japan, right? We're talking a different Marine Corps at the time. And I know a lot of people don't want to say that. But the thing is like, I'm not saying higher or less value in that statement. I'm saying different, right? Yep. I don't think it's any better or any worse, right? I'm not going to make that judgment call. But I will say that it's different. I also will say that me and this kid were actually like pretty good friends, right? And so although the story is, whatever, he had to be shown where the duty desk was in a traditional way. Right. Also, we became better friends after that. Like, of course, really good friends.
And there was a level of familiarity between you two. It's not like you're just beating down on somebody.
Yes. Yeah. And man, the growth that came out of that, right? The growth that came out of that for all parties involved. Yes. Right. I think is important. And so, to your point about the nature of the job, what I do now and things like that, things are gray. And anybody who's going to look at things and say, well, this shouldn't have that and that shouldn't have that. Like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like, we can do that with anything.
Exactly. It's really easy to play armchair quarterback on any situation, especially if you weren't involved in it.
100%.
All right, man. Well, shoot, man. I think we've covered your upbringing, your New York roots, how you landed in this organization that actually I think complements you very well.
Thank you.
In the Marine Corps. What I want to do now, man, to continue the conversation is kind of move on to our next segment. And in our next segment, we call it the toss up.
Okay.
Now, the toss up is just a little game that we play here on the show. I play with all my guests. I have a salad bowl in front of me. It has some green stuff in there. It's just green construction paper, but I guess it signifies the salad, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I wrote some specific questions in there for you, but I'm going to let you grab this bowl.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is you're going to reach in there, pull out a question. We're going to do 5 questions from the salad bowl.
Okay.
I don't think that they'll be too challenging, but they are nuanced enough because I knew you were going to be my guest today to really be able to pick your brain and then have us further the process of, this whole salad bowl event.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you can hand me the question when you pick, and then I'll
Nice.
read it for you.
Cool.
And then we'll explore.
Okay.
All right. Here we
Perfect.
go. So the first question for Zach Gonzalez on the Toss Up on the Salad Bowl podcast is: do you think that men are taught how to process life or just how to endure it?
So the first thought that comes to mind is something that my mother used to tell me, right? Shout out Wilda Rivera. She used to tell me that there's 2 schools of life. There's school, right? Academic school, and then the La Escuela de la Vida, right? Where there's school of life. And so I think men, because of the way society's been constructed, most of their lessons come from life. To our earlier point, the school system isn't really designed for either gender, but I think particularly for men to teach them what it means to be a man, right? So even the language of how we describe the gender is loaded with roles and things that we ascribe to it. So if I say man to you, that could be different than to me.
Yes.
Right. And it's just loaded. And so to answer your question specifically, I think life does a great job of teaching men because I think there's natural law, right? C.S. Lewis talks about this idea of natural law and talks about this idea that if you're just a bad friend, if you betray people, well, you're not going to have a lot of friends. And that's not written down anywhere, right? That's something that life teaches you if your parents don't teach you and stuff like that. So I think life does teach men. Now, is that a pleasant process or is
Definitely
that,
not.
Yeah, I would say no. I think that's a hard process. But I think the second part of the question is about endurance, and I think part of the learning as the recipient of what life is going to teach you is actually that the endurance is the best part, right? Like as a man, to me, Zach Gonzalez's opinion is like, you're that mountain, man. You control the temperature. You control the thermostat. Like you're that mountain that's immovable. So if you look at a mountain when it's thundering, raining, storming, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And so the way I look at it is, for me and my family, I'm the one who's controlling the temperature. I'm the one that's clear-headed. I'm the one that's level-headed. I'm the one that when things are going crazy, I want to say, hey, we're good.
Yeah.
The mountain is very immovable. And I would say life taught me that more than anything.
Yeah. Do you think that, because when I think of the word endurance, I would kind of have a similar definition of like resilience as well.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I guess in order to endure, you must be resilient because like you said, this life game that we play is going to give you a lot of obstacles you weren't prepared for.
Sure.
So your ability to be resilient from these things are going to knock you down, unfortunately.
Sure.
Actually, not even unfortunately, but fortunately, it helps you endure. I guess my question would be, do you feel like resilience has changed over the years? Because I feel like you and I are friends. We came up in similar, generations to where like when you say man, I feel like I know you enough to understand what you're getting at.
Sure.
Obstacles, life obstacles. I kind of know where you're talking about, but it may be interpreted different from a generation that's growing right now or a generation that's past, right now. Do you feel like resilience has changed over the years?
I think that's like that's a problem as old as time, right? Like every generation has a different zeitgeist, right? So every generation has a different theme, a different mode, a different understanding, all that stuff. If you look at the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, they're all vastly different from how they interpret things. And so I don't necessarily think, here's another problem. Language is an imperfect mode of communication. So when we say resilience, it's not precise. It's accurate, but it's not precise. And there's a difference there, right? So accurate is like, you know, we're in the general ballpark. Like, you know, he's shooting accurate. He's at 80%. But if he's precise, he's at 100%. He's Steph Curry, right? And so language is accurate. It can get us in the ballpark. And so I think the general theme of resilience has not changed. Okay. Right? Life's going to punch you in your mouth and you have a decision to make there. Are you going to get up? Are you going to keep moving? Or you keep fighting? What I think has changed is our understanding of it and maybe maybe our attitudes toward it. I think that has changed. Okay.
Yeah. When it comes to being resilient and enduring, and you mentioned them, but like you said, for your household, what does it look like in your household?
In terms of like teaching them, or what do you mean?
So let's start here. Let's start with what does your household look like? Yeah. And how do you apply your life's obstacles and ensuring that you continue to endure for your family?
Yeah. So my household is I'm married to my beautiful wife, Alyssa. I have 5 kids. Shout out to Alyssa. Yeah, shout out to Alyssa. I have 5 kids, right? Mia's my oldest, and then I've got, a bunch of toddlers in the middle. And so that's my household. And then to answer your question of what it looks like is I'm wholly focused on becoming the best man that I can for them. I very much believe in the best thing you can do to influence somebody, evangelize somebody, whatever you want to do, is just be the best version of you. And so if I want my children to have endurance, I must have endurance. If I want my children to work hard, I must work hard. Yeah. If I want to motivate my wife, I must be somebody that she wants to be motivated from, right? And that process is complex because that may not align with there's this idea of like Adam 1, Adam 2, or the lizard brain and the higher brain. Okay. That might not align with like the lizard brain. Okay. But those are things that I believe because of endurance, you kind of have to change in order to become the person that all those people that you're leading want to be around. And sometimes that they don't necessarily know that they need, right? So sometimes it's not all rainbows and sunshine. Sometimes it's the I don't want to say judgment, but sometimes it's the reminder of the standard. Sometimes it's like we're getting up Saturday morning, going on this walk, right? Oh no, we're sitting down and eating this damn dinner as a family, right? I think sometimes it's that. And so to answer your question, the way it looks like to me is to just try to improve myself as much as I can. And through that, my family, my children, my wife will hopefully be inspired and they'll want to be around me.
That's what's up, man. I think that's a very good answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's going to lead us to our next question. Go ahead and pick out question number 2 from the Salad Bowl. Here we go. The second question on the toss-up for the Salad Bowl podcast for Zach is, you have 5 children. Oh, wow. Can you verbalize what you want for them in this life?
The first thing that comes to mind is happiness, but that's a fickle word. I actually don't like the word happiness, right? Because if they get a new car, they'll be happy.
Right. It's pretty broad. It's a broad.
And it's like a feather in the wind, right? So what I want for them in the world is to find meaning the way I found meaning. I want them to find meaning. And whether that's through art, whether that's through education, whether that's through a family, whether that's through, I don't know, if one of them wants to become a monk, I want them to find meaning, right? That's all I want for them in this world. I understand that I don't really care if they're happy because, there's gonna be times they're not happy. Yeah. Right? And that might not be a bad thing, to the point earlier of like, there's a real argument that suffering is good. Dose dependent. It's all about dosage, right? Obviously, like anything, if you take an excess of Tylenol, it could fucking kill you. Yeah. But if you got a headache and you pop a Tylenol, it's the best thing that happened to you. Exactly. And so dose dependent on the suffering. But to answer your question, I just want them to find meaning in life. Yeah.
Yeah, man. With that, I guess you're saying nothing in particular, but based off what you know of your 5 right now, can you kind of tell where they're leaning, like where they'll find that meaning in life? Sure. It's gonna be funny because if we watch this years from now, you'll get to say, was I right or wrong about this thing? But if you don't mind, could you share where you see your children leaning to as far as finding their meaning in this life? Yeah, I think my oldest daughter, Mia, I think she's super gifted at like reading people's emotions. I think she's super gifted on picking up on just how people are feeling and stuff. And so I could definitely see her finding her meaning
either like a veterinarian role or a medical role or something like that, or even as like a mother, like finding her meaning and becoming a mother and doing all that. My second daughter Giselle, she says she wants to be a pilot, right?
Nice.
And so who knows? Like maybe she'll be a pilot. But I think for her, it's super hard to tell at that age, right? Just because who knows? But, so my next child is ZJ, Zach Jr., and ZJ is just a Neanderthal. Like that dude is just he's just meant to destroy and conquer. Like so the other ones will play and he'll come up and just like kick everything over. And he is high energy. Yeah. To the conversation we had earlier, we're going to homeschool him in particular because we want to delay him getting into that system. Yeah. And so I don't know. I can see ZJ doing a lot of different things, man. And I hope he gets into something that allows him to kind of express all that energy that he has in him. My second son, Emmanuel, he is like a lover, man. That dude is like so cuddly. He's just a cuddle bug, dude. Like he just like takes his head, nose and rubs it in, and nice. He is a cuddle bug. And then my baby, Gabriella, Gabrielle Ziomara, she is just a menace to society. Maybe because she's the youngest, bro, but just a menace. She just takes everyone's snacks, takes their cookies, takes their yogurt, screams, like just so, who knows. So yeah, they all have like these little personality things, but overall, I just want them to find something that they don't feel like they're a slave to. Yeah. Right. I want them to find something that they feel like they have a creative outlet, creative expression, and that they're impacting the world vice just allowing the world to impact them.
Oh man. Yeah. That's a word right there. And I think as a parent hearing that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the viewers can identify with being a parent and just wanting the most for your child in that capacity, man. All right. I think we're on question 3.
I think so.
All right. Here we go. Next question for Zach on the Salad Bowl podcast toss-up segment is, do you think that pain is necessary for growth? Tell me why or why not from your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I think the best way I can kind of conceptualize this is the idea of like a sword being forged or a diamond being forged through pressure. I think as humans, there's a lot of truth in things that don't like appear to be true. And so what I mean by that is like fairy tales and myths and all these things. It's like on the surface, it's like, what the fuck does a sword have to do with life? Right. And it's like, well, the sword gets heated up and then the sword gets hammered and it gets a more finer edge, and then it gets dunked in water and it goes again, and again. And I think that for me, that's a good way to kind of conceptualize life. And so when I was a young man, I would always be like, man, I can't believe this is happening to me. Like, what's going on? But now I look forward to it. And what I mean look forward to it is like when something goes wrong in my life, I view it as like there's something for me to learn here. Yeah. Like there's something for me to learn here. I don't know what it is. I don't know why this is happening. Sometimes I do know. Yeah. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Checks out, right? But yeah, absolutely. I think that it is a feature of life that you will suffer. And if you don't, I feel bad for you, actually. Yeah. I think suffering is something that gives people character. In a Christian sense, it's like salt of the earth type deal. Yeah. Like it gives you a little bit of seasoning, right? And then I think, on like the 10,000 foot view, there's going to be a little bit of suffering because everyone and you included is going to die. This is true. Right. And I know we have like an allergic reaction in the West talking about death. But I think it's important to think about it and contemplate on it and make peace with it because it's coming. And it's what makes things valuable, like friendships and relationships. It's like, I could lose this person.
I feel like every good story that we do like, though, comes from the adversity, like perspective, right? Like, Rocky lost so many fights and then he's overcoming. Simba loses his dad and now he's, the king of the Pride Rock or any story that we've grown really fond of. Wasn't like the story of perfection or like I had it easy, which I think actually contradicts this world that we live in, kind of like the social media perspective of like, we get to see everybody's highlights because nobody's going to post the hard stuff. But like the hard stuff is definitely part of life. Yeah. Well, we love the underdog, and what you're getting to there and like the filmmaking and the storytelling is the hero's journey, right? So Lord of the Rings, everything's going well in the Shire. Everything's going well with mom at home. Everything's peaceful.
And then fucking Gandalf walks through your front door. Is like, hey, bro, your uncle left you a ring, and you got to deliver this shit to some demon that's about to kill all y'all.
Right,
what
right.
the fuck?
What is going on?
And then you go through the woods with this big-footed fool who's kind of dumb. And so, but if you think about your life, you're like, it's kind of fucking what happened.
Yeah,
right?
man.
Like, and so, number one, fairy tales and stories are essential to being a human. They're essential because, like, when you look at truth appears to me to have to be wrapped in myth and story.
Yeah.
That's like the best way that I think we as humans can really digest it, not just taste it, but digest it. And then to your point, every culture loves the underdog story.
Yes.
Every story, people resist or people side with the resistance. So Hunger Games, all the, like, it's all about Harry Potter. It's all about the resistance, the oppressed.
Yes.
Because they're going through something and they want to get to the top. And then once you get to the top, it's like everybody hates you, right? It's like, you look at the LeBron James story or whatever else.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I really like that answer.
Yes.
So in order to grow, pain and discomfort is necessary for that journey.
And you should seek it out.
Yes.
And you should seek it out because it's been my experience that if you don't look for discomfort, it'll find you. Yeah.
I really like that one. I'm going to steal that one, bro.
Yeah, it'll find
Consider
you.
it stolen.
It'll find, take it. Yeah, it's free charge. Take it.
Yeah, man. All right, we got two more questions
Cool, man. There you go.
on the toss up, brother. That was a really good answer, man.
Thanks, man.
All right. Okay. The next question on the Salad Bowl podcast toss up section is, in my opinion, I believe that every generation's responsibility is to leave it better than they received it. Do you agree? If so, what is your lasting contribution for this generation and the generations to come?
I think I agree. It's hard for me to think in generational terms. I think I have a hard enough time like trying to manage my family. And so when I think about generational, like that's really hard for me to conceptualize. But I agree from the standpoint of, I just want to, when I interact with people, I just want that to be a positive interaction.
Okay.
I don't necessarily even, it doesn't have to be and here's what I mean by positive, because we should set terms. Even if we disagree, I want you to step away from that interaction. It's like, well, I know that dude wasn't being a dick. I understand that he just may have a difference of opinion. Like, I see that as positive.
Right.
And so I don't know if I'm capable of like answering what I want to leave to the generation. I do think where I think I can have an effect is just making sure that when people interact with me, that it's a positive interaction.
Yeah.
That it's something that maybe I can get the gears turning a little bit. And hopefully that'll have the trickle down effect, or hopefully that'll have the effect of like, well, hey, this guy said that how you do anything is how you do everything.
Right.
And now I'm thinking about that. Or this guy said I should seek discomfort. And that led me down to go read a book like The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter or all these other things. I think that's something that I'm very much a fan of.
Yeah, man.
I'm not very much a fan of like these huge sweeping ideas of like, what can I leave behind? Because, we only live for what, let's call it 100 years.
Okay.
Right. And so if you live for 100 years, the only thing that people really have of you 200 years from now is the lessons that have been transmitted through the people. So you talk about generational trauma, or you talk about generational wealth, and you talk about all that stuff. All that stuff is intangible. What that is lessons and feelings. And those are intangible things. And so, you have work ethic. It's okay. Well, where'd you get the work ethic from? Well, your dad taught you, and his dad taught him, and his dad taught him. Oh, you have trauma. Well, where'd you get the trauma from? That's not something you can grab, right? But it's a way you made somebody feel, or it's a thing. I'd call it like a spirit that stays with you. And so I don't want that, right? What I want to leave people is like a valuable lesson that whether my name's attached to it or not is irrelevant. I don't care if people remember Zach Gonzalez.
Yeah.
What I want them to remember, I think, is that, life is beautiful.
Yes.
And that, yes, it's hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah, man. But it makes me think, I think it's my optimism that allows me to believe kind of like the butterfly effect from that one positive interaction.
Yes.
Though we want the positive outcome to come from that positive outcome could affect a lot of other things that could be, though we may see it as minute, could grow into something that is a generational change. Like, that one conversation you have with another individual and you express your education or your life viewpoint on a certain situation could cause them to have a significant emotional event to where they're like, 10 years from now, they're saying, well, you know what? I met a guy named Zach Gonzalez and he told me this, and that could be a lasting contribution to get somewhere for the next generation.
I can give you an example, right? So I tore my ACL in 2017, and I was in a bad spot, right? So 2017, I'm looking to get out of the Marine Corps. I'm getting out of a terrible relationship. I tear my ACL and I'm at like the 6-year mark in the Marine Corps. And so I'm like in a pivotal point in my life, where like, okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. And I had some really good things going for me, right? I had a good, strong support system. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was amazing. She was taking care of me. She was doing all this stuff. But I was still like in this conundrum of like, man, I'm still a young man. I was 23 or 24. I don't know what I'm going to do. And my mother comes to visit me. And I've been playing like Mortal Kombat for like fucking 2 weeks laid up. And I'm just sick of playing this shit. And so I tell my mom, like, yo, can you go to Barnes & Noble and just pick out 2 books? I had not been reading. I mean, I think the last fucking thing I read was like, I don't know, maybe like Twitter or some shit. Like I wasn't reading, and I didn't read any of the school books. I was terrible at reading. And I remember she goes and picks up The 7 Effective Steps of Leadership. And then she picks up Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. It was on the Harvard Business Review. And this is circa 2017. So that thing's not popular. Right. And the Harvard Business Review it was so difficult for me to read. I like read the same page like 10 times. I'm like, I'm dumb as shit. Like, I don't know what none of that shit is saying. But just like the gym, like you have to keep going. But when you want to talk in terms of legacy, that guy, Daniel Goleman, who I've never met, completely changed my life. Yes. Right. Stephen Cohen, I believe his name is, for the 7 Effective Steps of Leadership, changed my life through a book. And I've never met them. Yes. And in 100 years, the lessons that I'm modeling, they're not going to come from like, no one's going to be like, oh, Stephen Cohen taught Zach Gonzalez that, who taught his kids that. But that mode of being gets transmitted. Yes. And so that's what I want to be able to pass on to people of like, hey, if you do this, you could potentially get this. Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, I got to agree with you on that one. I think that the longer that I live, my hope for the future is bottled up into efforts like that. Yeah. Because I feel like that's the stuff that's long lasting. And even if I share a small play in it all, like it's not about even me getting any recognition for it. Yeah. It's more about, can this live on? Because it could be a future answer to somebody who may need it 50, 100 years from now. This is the idea of like the great conversation. And what I love what you're doing here, right? It's like ultimately, we only got a couple options in life. We can either try to convince people and talk to them and get to know them, or we can be physical with them. Like, like these are really the only options in life in order to get people to understand and cooperate and all that stuff. What do you mean get physical with them? So let's say you want to assert your will on somebody. Oh, okay. Let's say, okay, so me and you can have a conversation and you can say, well, I believe the sky's purple. And we could just talk for 100 years and debate it. And I can do experiments and you can do experiments and it can be a great time. Or you can just say, no, the sky's fucking purple. And if you don't say it, then X will happen and I'll put pressure. And so these are really the only 2 ways to kind of do things. Right. I prefer the former, right? Yeah. I prefer like, no, let's have the conversation. And if we disagree about it, well, let's revisit it and let's keep excavating, right? Let's keep digging. Let's keep digging. And books allow you to do that. Yeah. And conversations allow you to do that. And I think if you're reading a book accurately, you're having a conversation. That's actually what's happening. It's like you're talking to the author. Right? Yes. Like, because you're wrestling with what they're saying and hopefully you're taking notes and you're saying, I don't really agree with that shit. Or that's a really good point. And so from a legacy some of the best books that I've read have me in that point where like, it's hard for me to get through a page because I'm like wrestling with how I feel about what the author's saying. Yes. I've even, there was a book that came out that I saw, The Way of the Superior Man. Yeah. Yes. Jack something. Yeah. I can't think of the author's name, but like I was wrestling with it when I was reading it because I was like, is he speaking from this perspective? Sure. Is this part of toxic masculinity? Yeah. Like, how does this play out in my life and my experiences? Yeah. And like, I'm like only like 3 pages in and I'm like, freak, like, am I ever going to get through this book? But yeah, I feel like you're right. It is a conversation between you and the author because you're accepting their input, but then you're balancing it with what you have as well. And you should be, right? So when you when I first started reading books, it was like I was just a sponge. Like I just whatever. But now that I'm a little bit more sophisticated, like I can push back on some ideas that I disagree with. Yeah. Or I can wrestle with some ideas. Like I've read books, there's a lot of things I disagree about a lot of books, but I'm willing to say, oh, okay, I could see where you're coming from, or I can see that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, man. Well, that leads us to our last question of the toss-up. Last question. Here we go. Let's see what we got. I like this question. Okay. All right. Last question for Zach is, tell me about a version of you that you had to let go of to grow. There's a great quote that's Corinthians something that talks about you have to leave childish ways behind, right?
Yes, yes.
And so
it's something like when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. Something like that.
That's right. There's this other idea of that you got to kill the boy inside of you in order to become a man, right? You have to go to war with that motherfucker, right? Because it's like the Peter Pan effect, right? Like you think about Peter Pan, and Peter Pan's got a great life, right? He's on Pleasure Island, everything's cool, he's got Tinkerbell, like shit is dope. Shit is dope. I'm flying around, and then here comes this motherfucker Captain Hook, and he's just miserable. Like who the fuck wants to be Captain Hook? Like, nobody wants to be Captain Hook.
Exactly.
But the thing about Hook is Hook has lived life a little bit. Right? He's
had his innocence stolen a little bit. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that there is space before you have to become Captain Hook. You can choose to be Captain Hook. Right? I think there's space there. And so life either way is going to force you to become that. Because it's going to take time. Like time has got a hold of you. Yes. You're going to be 60, you're going to be 70. And there's nothing sadder than like a 70-year-old man that's still doing childish things. Yeah, man. Like why are you not an elder with wisdom? Yeah. Why are you still behaving like a 20-year-old? To me, that's sad. Yeah. Right. And so even though I can understand the affiliation with younger versions of myself or all these things, like I must not only put them away, I must actively fight against them and kill them daily. It's this idea of fighting against that lower version of yourself. Yeah. And so to put it more succinctly and to kind of put some character traits to it, the version of myself that I want to get rid of is the one that's quick to anger, right? The one that's highly emotional, the one that can't control his eyes, the one that can't control his feelings, the one that just blurts the first thing that comes to their mouth, the one that doesn't read, the fool that's willing to fight everybody over anything. Yeah. Those are the versions that not only have I had to let die, but I have to continue to kill. Yes. Right? Because, they're...
It's continuous. Those fights are continuous.
Oh, yeah.
I know that you and I have had conversations where actually when you came to the Senior Leaders Workshop a long time ago and you asked me in front of the class, I was like, oh, Zach's putting me on the spot right now. But you asked me like one of my life lessons.
I knew you could handle it.
Yeah. But I said something, close to what you're saying as far as like one of my biggest lessons is like how to manage my desires, right? Like, because that's something that you have to continue to work at because it seems like it's always present. Yeah. You and I both like the rapper J. Cole, and there's a new song that he has on Life. It's called Life Sentence, and he's talking about like, man, like sometimes when you get the power, when you get these things, it's like you have to fight yourself. Yeah. In order to make sure that you're really signing up to continue your life sentence with your real person.
Yes. And I mean, we talk about leadership, we talk about all these things, but we're very uncomfortable with the idea of having conversations that are taboo. Yeah. And what we're talking about here is a real taboo conversation because it takes vulnerability. Yes. And it takes you willing to admit that maybe you're not the
perfect.
Best person.
Yeah.
Right. But that's okay. Right. Yeah. That's what that allows other young men to do is to say like, okay, well, I'm going to avoid that. And that's when I talk to young men in any type of way, right? If it just comes up or I'm talking to Marines or however it comes up, I try to tell them to be very careful about the choices that they make because it is important and it's something that nobody ever told me. Exactly. Right. And I don't think it was a flaw of the older generation. I think they just weren't in a position to where they were comfortable enough or they didn't understand it enough. And I think, if you think about these generations is getting closer and closer to the truth or us being able to get more and more comfortable with some of these topics. I think we're in a generation where we can just call a spade and say, hey, that behavior is unacceptable. Exactly. But it's happening. Right. But as somebody who's 33 years old and who's becoming an older person who's got a bunch of gray hair, I can sit there and look at young men and be like, motherfucker, that probably ain't the best way to go about
probably
shit.
Not the best. Lived enough life to know that that's probably not.
You should stay away from that.
Exactly. Right? And when we talk about like even like managing like the desires, we're not even just talking about like sexual desires, but like even like the things that like when it comes to food, like when you hear people say you probably shouldn't eat that. When it comes to, you know what, I know you like that car a lot. Probably don't need to buy that car right now. I can give you a
great example. The other day I was talking to a junior Marine over in the office and he said something about, my wife was upset about the game or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, man, here's Zach Gonzalez's opinion, because this is all wrapped into, I don't know the answers, but these are some things that have worked for me. Right. If your wife is saying you don't want you on the game, it's like, okay, then get off the game. Yeah. right?
Yeah.
Because
Manage that desire.
Manage that desire. And the reality is, the way I look at it is, like, when I got married to my wife, Alyssa, Zach and Alyssa, for the most part, are dead. Right? The Gonzalez's is what's important.
Yes.
Right? And managing what that looks like. There really is a whole spirit to that institution, because marriage is an institution and there's a spirit to that institution. And, both these people are equal shareholders in that institution.
Yes.
And so as the man, I think you are the mountain. I think you do control the temperature. But if you're the mountain, you got to withstand a storm. If you're the mountain, that lightning is going to fucking hit you.
Yeah.
If you're the mountain, that rain is going to bite. And you have to be able to withstand that. And so part of the psychological transformation that happens for men in these relationships is they learn how to manage their desires through the love that they have for their wives.
Yes.
And to your point, it doesn't have to be a sexual desire. That's one of the desires. But the desire to go play the game, the desire to go hang with the homies, the desire to go have a drink, the desire to fucking sleep till 2 a.m. Or 2 p.m., the desire to not change diapers, like all these things, those must die in order for the institution to be successful.
Yes.
And so, yeah, all those versions, to answer your question, they got to go.
Yeah, man.
They got to go.
Wonderful answer, dog. I don't even want to put anything extra on that, because I think that you answered it perfectly.
Thanks,
and it's funny because I look back over our friendship, man, and we didn't have these conversations when we first met. Conversations were wrapped up into very superficial level things.
For sure.
And I think that, mid episode here, it's just, as I reflect, like, it's cool seeing the growth and the things that we can talk about nowadays, man. Yeah. All right, so that wraps up the toss up, man. Thank you for telling us a little bit more about you and how you think. This leads us to our next segment. Our next segment we call Mixed Ingredients. Yep. Now, Mixed Ingredients is like a segment where I have a predetermined thing that I wanted to talk to you about, that I feel like I wanted to shed light on from your perspective, where I get to highlight you, man. I know, in being your friend this long, that you've done a lot of growth in a lot of different areas. One, your career has been phenomenal, man. Like, I've watched you from the cheap seats, and I'm like, dang, man, Zach is really doing the dang thing. Moved up in this in the Marine Corps organization really fast. Is a valuable leader. But one of the areas that I don't think we talk about enough is your growth in your spirituality. Yeah. That's something that was new to me, and actually one of the things that I don't think that I would have tracked the first time that we met, but now it seems to be a centerpiece of who you are in your life. Yeah. Can we kind of talk about that, man? Can you kind of tell me about your walk in your spirituality?
Yeah. Thanks for that question, because it is important to me. So I grew up, my mother tried very difficult to make me like a Catholic kid. My father, again, grew up in Mount Loretta Catholic Orphanage. And so I think he was had a very antagonistic attitude towards the Catholic Church. Who knows what he went through? You're talking the 50s, the 60s. He's grown up. The Catholic Church is notorious for all types of goofy shit, right? But my mom she hired this nice little old lady, and we just brutalized that bitch, bro. It was tough, bro. I was asking all the hard questions. 10 years old, being like, well, if God loves us, why do kids die? Just all the little quick questions. And so as a teenager, I was opposed to the idea of God, and I think culture endorses that. And I was like, man, this shit, whatever. It's Fugazi. Nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about, whatever. And that lasted up until I was probably about 22 proper. Atheist proper. Now, I've always had a photographic memory, and so I could recite Bible verses, and I thought the Bible from a secular narrative view was great. I think it's a cool story, right? And so I had no problem with that. And I could tell you Bible verses, and we could talk about Jesus and all that. But the real belief that Christ died and then rose again 3 days later was not there. So 22 years old, I meet this guy named Daniel Glenn. He's a sergeant when I check into the unit over in North Carolina in Stone Bay. And me and Glenn, that's the big homie. He was just always there for me. He was a great support system when I was going through a real tough part of my life. But he was a staunch Christian. And I would always fuck with him. And, he was pro-life and just all these things. And I was very, very, I'm a little brother. So I was getting under
disruptive.
his skin. Disruptive. Just try to get under his skin. But the guy took a liking to me, man. He took a liking to me. He never gave up on me. And he was I just want to plant the seed, bro. Yeah. And so you fast forward, I'm in Texas in 2022. So I meet Glenn in 2015. Yeah. And then about 8 years later, I have a real significant emotional event. I'm driving in my truck at the time, and I just feel like this great deal. Shame isn't the right word. Accountability. I feel like this great deal of accountability, like a weight. And I start crying, man. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it's almost like God, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, held up a mirror to my life and pretty much showed me like, you need to be better or you're going to end up over here. Right. And it was an external voice, right? So all of us have a voice in our head, but this was like where the thoughts come from. Like I was having these thoughts that like, where is this even coming from? Now I was reading a lot at the time and I was looking into a lot of different things. But I had a real significant emotional event where I just knew God was real and I knew the Holy Spirit was real. And I just cried in my car and I just felt like I had been really like the hand of God had been put on me and told me like, you need to make better choices. Right? I was 26 or something like that, 25. And also told me like, stop wasting the fucking gifts that I'm giving you, motherfucker. Like, hey, you know, like, stop wasting them.
Flag of the finger.
Yeah. Like, and so I started going down this journey. And my wife grew up Southern Baptist. And so we tried that for a little while. But I was I was telling you and your wife earlier yesterday that I have like a terrible personality flaw that when someone tells me anything, I'm like,
but for real though.
Okay. And so we start going to these churches in Texas and they're like, there are these mega churches and motherfuckers are pushing like Ford Raptors with all leather. And I'm like, okay. I know what's going on here, Jimmy. Like, okay. Like,
I bet you do want me to tithe, don't you?
I bet you do want the fog machine and all that shit, whatever.
Yeah.
So instead, I took a different approach and I had already really loved reading and I just started reading. Right? I just started reading about the faith. And I came to Christianity as like a historian. Like I started looking at it from a historical perspective of like, where the fuck did this thing come from? Right. Like I'm not interested in the fog machine or like the fucking people with the flags or like coloring Jesus in a coloring book. I want none of that shit. I want like the no stuff, you know, Abrahamic religion, historical narratives. Yeah. And so I went down that path and I learned about the 7 ecumenical councils and Catholicism and Orthodox Christianity. And after about 2 years, I converted to an Orthodox Christian. And so that's what I am now. I'm an Orthodox Christian. My faith has been huge for me, for me. I touched down here on Sunday and I drove immediately to church. I did the Divine Liturgy. And getting back to our earlier conversation, it's something that allows me to kill the boy over and over and over again. And it's a story that's beautiful, right? Yeah. The story of, we can take a non-religious view of it. If you just look at the story of Jesus from a secular view, it's a great story. I mean, that dude goes through so much shit and he never once is like, fuck y'all. Yeah. Right. And that's a great story. Yes. And so that's kind of how I came to my faith. And
you talked about suffering earlier. Yeah. Like that's one of the ultimate examples of true suffering. Yeah. And I want to add this in here. Like this isn't prescriptive. So I'm not saying any of this as like writing a prescription to anybody. Well, I'm saying all this is like, I feel blessed enough that happened to me. I'm not handing out a prescription for Christianity because I'm incapable of doing that. Yeah. Only the Holy Spirit can do that. Like I can't write you a prescription and say, hey, go ahead and run with this. Right. And I go to this church, take it to this. Yeah, doctor. I can't do that. And I wouldn't try, right? All I can say is that I will accredit the seed being planted to a combination of my older brother Eddie Gonzalez, who went through his conversion at a couple years, and then Daniel Glenn, and then the Holy Spirit watering it and getting to the point where I'm at now, where I'm comfortable saying I'm an Orthodox Christian. I'm comfortable saying that I believe that Jesus rose 3 days later after he died, and I'm comfortable with praying and doing all that stuff. And I don't feel any way about it. I think it's the truth. Yeah, man. That's. The fact that you're certain, and my thing is this: here on the podcast, we talk about one of our things is choose curiosity over certainty. Sure. But I would be the first one to tell you that there are certain things in this life that we should be certain about, and it seems like you have a certainty about where you stand at right now on your spiritual walk, and I think that there's extreme value in that. Like, and I think. And hopefully you take this as a compliment. I as your friend over the years has seen the change, right? Yeah. Like the example is not just in a facade that you put on. Yeah. Like you could tell that there's some things that you have taken in, even from your historian approach of finding out these things that have really taken an impact on even how I view you as a friend, brother. Yeah. And so I've always been interested in what sparked that that change?
Divine intervention. Divine intervention. It wasn't anything. It was divine intervention. It was the Holy Spirit, God and Jesus Christ saying, "You're mine. Welcome."
Yeah.
Right. And you know, it's one of these things that I have like an obsessive personality anyway.
Yeah.
And so I'm not somebody who, again, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when people talk about Christianity, like I understand people's hesitancy towards it. I get it, right? Like I get it. And I'm not even saying that you're wrong for having hesitations towards it. I don't think you're wrong. I think you can have all the hesitations you want. The only thing I would say is I would encourage people to okay, we have a hesitancy. Well, then let's go do that research if you want to, right? If that's just not what you want, then great. But if you felt called, like I felt called, where I was like, man, there's something here.
Something about it.
And then the other thing I'll say is I'm certain that I don't know everything, and I'm okay with that. So we call it the mysteries of the faith. I don't view my version of Christianity, the Orthodox version of Christianity, as having to explain everything because I'm not a lawyer for Jesus.
Exactly.
Right? There's some things I don't understand.
Yes.
There's some things I'm not going to understand. And, you know, if you're looking for me to answer all these questions, it's like, that's a mystery of the faith. I can't do that.
Exactly.
But what I can say is that the story and the idea and the truth of Christ makes me a better person.
Yes.
Right. And so it's a result. It's a performance given system that I'm using here.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, you bring that up, man. And I feel like that's usually the pinnacle of some of the conversations I've had with my friends who are atheists or agnostic. It's like, sometimes it turns into this battle of like, I'm going to prove to you that this thing isn't real. And it kind of lands on, I don't want to say deaf ears, but it's kind of like, you can prove whatever you want to prove, but like, me not being able to prove whatever you're trying to combat right now doesn't mean that I don't believe in this particular entity or like that it's not real to me, you know, and that's where I think perspective does play a part. And you know, shoot, call me naive, call me whatever you want to call me, but like there's certain things that I am uncertain about that still doesn't contribute to my lack of belief.
Well, and if you push people far enough, what you'll figure out is eventually somewhere everybody hits an I don't know.
Yeah.
Everybody hits an I don't know. And so for me, I'm very comfortable in my I don't know being in a 2,000-year tradition that I believe has shaped the West, that I know has shaped me as a man. I'm very comfortable with that I don't know. I'm less comfortable with the I don't know that I had before, which is like, you know, with the Big Bang Theory, and I'm less comfortable with that. I'm more comfortable with this ancient ritualistic tradition that provides me comfort, provides me stability, provides me a mode of being a man. You know, for people that don't have good examples, there's great examples in there. And so I'm just comfortable with that. And if somebody's not, like, okay, do you?
Do you, boo-boo?
Yeah. Hopefully I can be an example for you to say, that's cool. And if I'm not, like, okay.
Yeah, man. I love it, bro. Well, thanks for I guess, walking us through your walk spiritually. I think even your comfortability level on explaining something that's happened within the last 10 years of how it literally changed your life. Sometimes I think some people are, I guess, so reflective that sometimes you can't even process it to be able to now be a testimony or an example for somebody else.
Sure.
The fact that you were able to just do that, man, hats off to you. But this is what happens now, man. We move into our last segment of the day.
Okay.
And the last segment of the day, I know I talk a lot, man, but this one's not for me. We call this the final bite.
Okay.
And in the final bite, I leave it to my guest to kind of leave us with a universal message, man, something that's going to be worth something 100 years from now. Maybe it's us planting a seed right now, or maybe trying to input into that generational wealth that what we were talking about earlier. But like, is there a message that you have specifically from Zach Gonzalez to the viewers? And I always tell every guest this, I don't know how many people are going to watch this, man. It's really not even about that. It's about our moment in time together. But like, is there a message that you have for the viewers, or, you know, just that's on your heart right now that could possibly better this whole salad bowl effect for this world?
Yeah, I think for me, probably the thing that I would tell people is like, you can shape your life. You're not stuck. And so if you've been somebody who's hurt people, if you've been a bad friend, if you've been whatever, it's like, you're not stuck there. You can choose right now in this moment to be the version of whoever you want to be. And then you could buy a couple books, watch a couple YouTube videos, get around some good people. You are not chained to whatever you were yesterday. And I know in my life, I have felt a lot of times that I'm the mistakes that I did yesterday. And I'm not. Those things were valuable. And maybe there's some things you still got to work through, right? Because the reality is we exist in a couple different ways. There's Zach Gonzalez today. There's Zach Gonzalez in the past. And there's still things I have to work out there. And then there's Zach Gonzalez in the future. And so, in my opinion, what you want to do with your life is you want to get to a point to where, okay, I'm making the good investments today, so that way in the future, 45-year-old Zach Gonzalez is like, yeah, that motherfucker at 33 killed it, right?
Yeah.
But in the point where I'm at right now, there's still some things I got to wrestle with at 25 and some things I got to clean up. But what I would like people to know is like, you can do that. You can start right now, today. I don't care what you've done or where you've been or whatever mistakes that you've made. You can start to do that. And one of the best ways I think you can do that is go to Google and type in, hey, go to ChatGPT, type in, give me a list of books on how to be a better ex, how to be a better listener, how to be a better friend, how to not be a shitty son, how to be a better husband. Give me the top 3 and just start reading them and having those conversations and doing the work to change who you are as a person. You're not stuck.
Man, phenomenal final bite, man.
Thanks, man.
It's funny because I asked, all of my guests this question, and I've never had an overlapping message, but still every message is a phenomenal message. And then I like how you, one, gave your message, but also gave some action behind it.
Yeah.
This is how you achieve what I'm saying. Like, I'm not leaving you without any action.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to show you the way of how to attain the things that I'm talking about right now.
And the important piece is you can do it.
Yeah.
That's the hard piece. The hard piece is understanding that we shape our reality.
We do.
And life doesn't happen to you. You happen to life. Yes, there's things that happen that are outside of your control. Yeah, Merry Christmas. But there's space there. You got stimulus, you got response, and there's a little bit of space there. And in that space, we can widen that to fix and shape the outcome. And so whatever happens in your life, no matter what it is, there is space there for you to fix and shape that outcome.
Yeah, man.
But you have to be prepared when that happens.
Yeah,
you got to
man.
be prepared.
Oh my goodness, man. Thank you for that final bite, brother. I'm going to say it now as we conclude, brother. Thank you for sitting down with me. I know this is a podcast where, we're hoping that the listeners listening and they take something from it, but I got a lot from what you shared. And I find this out about every one of my guests. Like, though they may be close friends of mine, there's still things we don't know about the people that are closest to us that still, help us find discovery in our own lives, man.
Yeah.
So thanks for everything that you shared, brother. Thank you for spending time here today, because time is something that we can't get back. And I appreciate you investing your time into what I got going on here, brother. I'm proud and I'm happy to call you a friend of mine, man.
Same.
And I'm glad we got to capture this moment in time together, man, because I would love to think that, 50 years from now, whether we're here or not, maybe our children, maybe our wives, or, because they usually outlive us.
They do.
They'll look back on moments like
do.
this and say, this was the type of man or the character in which I, was attached to. So, brother, thank you for being here, man.
Absolutely.
All right. To the viewers out there, again, I say this very often, but this was an example of how to normalize authenticity. You saw two brothers sit across from each other, just talking about some of the things that we may consider taboo or some of the things that we don't say out loud. But this is how we move the ball forward as far as growing each other as individuals. I ask that you do the same. If you're not in a position to have a hard conversation, sometimes it's as easy as just going and making somebody smile. Start there, and I think that we can make some strides with that. Until the next time on the Salad Bowl podcast, so we just want to say we appreciate you, and we'll make sure that we put Zach's information up on the screen. So if you want to reach out to him directly, if you have any questions about anything that he said on here, we'll make sure he's available to you. That's all that I have for today, and we're looking forward to seeing you the next time on the Salad Bowl podcast. Peace.
Thanks, man. That was great.
Yeah,
that was
thanks,
awesome.
bro.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl. You are now tuned into the
Listen up, don't care if you about to pass out or you just getting up. You really did your thing with this one, Kevin, gotta give it up. Messages you bring and be motivation to live it up. We out here really normalizing authenticity. Can't be talking all the time, cause that mean you ain't listening. I think you look better when you smile, I see you glistening. Communication helping me to see what you envisioning. Yeah, back to the mission then. Whether you black, white, brown, yellow, or green, more can be accomplished as a team. Together, the problem is never as hard as it may seem. Lot of captivating convos like Martin telling his dream. We choosing curiosity over certainty. You should certainly subscribe to this one here with some urgency. This a win. Even Cali know You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl.
Salad Bowl Podcast.
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl.
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
Yeah, you are now tuned in to the...
It's the Salad Bowl Podcast.
You are now tuned in to the Salad Bowl.
You are now tuned into the Salad Bowl Podcast with Kevin Thompson.